coworker. She's my critique. On my regular job. Alcohol. These tools, as you cut different plants, you can be pathogens. There can be any kind of bacteria and stuff on here. You make one cut, and you go cut again. What happens? You can pass that into whatever that on the time punch into the ground. So I keep a piece of paper towel, a piece of alcohol. Every once in a while, I keep my knives, I keep my shoe. Clippers are important. We just saw some of that, and I'm going to start this thing in half a minute. And now, a couple things. We'll go over doing grafting. So here's my scion. Don't scream. I cut her plant last time. She was over there. So this is no longer any good. What this is good for is mulching up the This is full of nitrogen, right? So if you want something to grow, chop this up, break the leaves off, put it in the garden. If you want something to grow. If you are pruning your tree and you don't want that tree to just shoot back up in the air, do not drop that stuff on the ground. Because all you do is put a bunch of nitrogen into the ground. That's just going to make the plant grow, right? So now here's my plant that's cut. Generally, actually, you try to make these match up as much as possible. What we're trying to do though really is put together the inside cambium layer. And I'm going to give you an example of that. The cambium layer is the roll layer of the plant. You have the outer bark, which is here, what you see. You have the cambium layer right on the inside. I'll pass that around in a second. And you have the inner bark. That roll layer, that cambium layer, takes the food that leaves makes and sends it back down to the plant, shares it to the plant, right? The inner bark takes all the food from the roots, brings it up and shares it to the plant. So what you want to do is make sure the cambium layers are touching, because the cambium layers are where you're going to pass all that's the cambium layer. Those are the things that you want to match up, and you'll see inner bark, outer bark, cambium layer right on the inside of it, right? And that's what you want to put together. Now there is another type of propagation called air layering, where they'll remove a piece of bark, they'll put some dirt around it, put some rooting hormones on it, the roots there, and you cut that and you make another plant, right? Same concept, right? If you have a plant that you want to produce heavily on a particular branch, you can do the same thing. This is called ringing the bark. You can go to that plant, you can cut an opening around it, and leave it open, so the inner bark is exposed. When you do that, all the food that the leaves make, it doesn't share with the rest of the plant. It stays in that side, and it's still getting food up through the roots, right? All right, so let's get going. And there's usually a raffle here. I don't know what happened. So we're gonna do a top cleft graft. Cleft means if this is my rootstock, I'm gonna split it in half, make a V. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna cut it into a spike, and I'm gonna put it inside. When I get done, it's gonna look like this, and I'm gonna wrap it up and tie it. Okay? I'll pass this around when I'm done. So again, cut away from yourself. You will lose a finger if you don't. And these tools have to be really sharp. And again, I suggest if you're gonna use something for grafting, don't use it for anything else. Because if everything you cut on, there's a possibility that you're gonna transfer any kind of bacteria or fungus into your graft. So you see that V? That's good. Now I'm going to no. What you don't do is you don't have to worry about matching both sides, right? And this is where the bevel edge comes in really nicely. You open that up, and then you go inside. Now, there's one more thing. So if you look at that, you see how the V is closed up? All right, now, sometimes time is better than still. If I let that thing dry out, I don't care how good a cut I make, it's not gonna make it, right? So try not to cut things and have them hanging around and not covered up, not in a Ziploc bag or wrapped up properly. And what we're trying to do now is cover the entire area that was cut.
And you wouldn't put alcohol on the plant.
Absolutely not. No. Okay, now we need one more step. Next step is the rubber band. Now, this parafilm, going back to the theme that we talked about earlier with the rubber bands, is also biodegradable. You notice I have not removed any plastic here, but you see the branches coming out, right? This is what it looked like when it started, and these branches. So it goes right through, and it goes away. Again, I've had grafts with plastic on them. I've gone in and I've tried to cut that plastic away and slice the graft in half. And I wish I'd have cut my finger off instead of cutting my graft up. So, first single wrap, holds it so you have your pin leg here. Now, one of the things you want to do is make sure that you have a good union, right? So even though I put it looks like it's there, I always squeeze just a little bit as I'm wrapping. And that just makes sure, because rubber band now will back that up, right? You see the rubber band kind of breaking down there. Wrap this around a couple times. Don't go too tight. The rubber band will break down. So it never, it's a horrible idea, yes. The problem is not the zip tie, the problem is removing the zip tie after. Because the zip tie, the plant is gonna swell, and it's gonna swell and tighten up against that zip tie. Now you have no room to get in to cut it, and as you go to cut it, you're gonna cut that bark at that point. It's at the table. What you want to do is label your plant. What I like to do is put the variety of the plant and also the date that it's done. So this is a Brogden.
Are you labeling it for the root stock or
You're labeling it for to know when approximately when you should be seeing things push, right? In about 2 weeks, this should start pushing out, right? So you know if you get past 2 weeks, you may have a problem. You may want to check something. I'm going to show you something else in a second. Today is 420. All right, I just wrote this with a marker. Do not label your things with markers. I don't care if they say it's non-erasable marker, it will erase. Use a number 2 pencil. Okay, and I'll change this later on. So you put your tag in, and there's your graph.
Hello, I'm Catherine Jarrett.
Questions?
how old?
When you wrap it, you actually fold the tape over so that you can stretch it more.
So on the top, I let the tape go flat.
Yeah.
On the bottom, I like to make it a little bit stronger because I have to cut, and so I fold it in half.
What was the age of the root, and what was the age of the? You call the scion is the part you put on, right?
Right. So the scion is from the living tree.
Big one back here.
That's about a year-old seed. And all you need really, you need pencil thin, about pencil thickness on this for it to work. Usually.
And then because it's from the mature tree that's about 8 years old, you're gonna start getting
It's going to
fruit.
produce fruit by next year. They'll start putting flowers on.
Yeah.
Now we'll hold the fruit. Remember, this is the zero hunger thing, right? You use grafting to combat hunger. That's
Right.
faster fruit production.
Right. So if the flowers start, but the scion is still small in about a year, and it doesn't hold fruit, is it going to damage the tree?
Depends on the weight and depends on if you let it hold. So let's say you had a house avocado, this big. It'll probably hold it and give you maybe one. If you have a Monroe avocado that's that big, it's probably going to snap that branch if it even holds it.
So you should remove it.
You should remove it. Now, don't just start removing the flowers. Let it fruit first, and then remove the fruit. If you take the flowers out, the plant is still in that same phase. It'll push more flowers out. Now, flowers are a stress. Fruit are a stress. Right? There are a lot of women here. When you have a baby, it takes a lot of energy out of your body. A fruit is the same thing as a baby to a plant. Right? So that fruit, as it's producing the fruit, a lot of the energy is going into it. So that's why you need extra. You need prenatals. You need more potassium, calcium, etc. Calcium is your quarterback tells the nutrients where they should go in the plant. So that in effect can live that way. You can do something else on top of that. Now, this is for people like me that are lazy, and I don't want to water this plant every day, right? Because I don't want to water this plant every day, what I do is I create a semi-greenhouse. This is a regular wire hanger. So this from my wife's closet. I gave her some nice ones back. A nice one. I put it in like that. Right? Now, you can reinforce this by doing another one and do it fully. And anytime there's old Ziploc bags around the house, we don't throw them out. The gallon, this is a 2 gallon. So generally what you would do is cover this up. You put a rubber band around it. And now effectively you have a temporary greenhouse. What's going to happen tomorrow? The heat that's in that soil is going to start hitting the bag. It hits the bag, it's going to create condensation. Condensation is going to fall into the plant. You don't have to water. Right? No kidding. So, yes, generally you're going to water it first because that's the water. It's effectively just going to keep reusing itself.
How long can you do that?
You don't. Listen, I have plants that have been sitting for 2 months like that and have not put any water. You come out in the morning, this is all fogged up,
Right.
touch the bag, the water just drops, and they'll do it again. Keep on doing it all day long. These, you cannot put these in full sun. Right, so start in the shade first. As the fruit starts, the leaves start to come out, a little bit into, and just work a little bit into the sun, especially this sun that we have going on. It's way too hot.
At what age would you put it in the ground?
You can put it in the ground once it takes. I like to go. So that scion is called like a panicle, right? Once I get about two panicles up, that's when I decide if I'm going to up pot. Because we usually start grafting in 1 gallon. Because you grow the seedlings in a 1 gallon. Because you want that root to be able to go out into a 3 gallon properly later on. If you put it into a 3 gallon, it's just going to be. You're gonna have to keep stepping up, and the plant's going to be really strong. It'll get stuck because there's too much food. Right? So you can keep it here. Once I get another set of growth out here, I'm going to take this, I'll put this into a 3 gallon or it goes into the ground.
So too much food stunts it?
Well, it's going out and grabbing a bunch of food, and it's going to be setting out a bunch of roots in the pot. What happens is that the plant is too small to uptake it. So sometimes it gets stuck against it. If you over-fertilize, it can stunt the plant or it can burn the plant. One of the 2 things.
And how do you know at what height to make the scion, at what height to cut? Are you always cutting down right down to the root there? Or
Okay,
sometimes
let me
you
go
cut
back.
any higher?
It's a good thing. I forgot about maintenance. This seedling here doesn't like that you put something else into it. It's going to try to come back, right? The more space you leave here at the bottom, the more branches you're going to start seeing coming from the bottom. What you must do when you start seeing little branches coming from the bottom like these is break them off. If you don't break them off, the tree is still inherently more what the rootstock is, and it will take that graft over and kill the graft. All right, so that's the maintenance you have to do, is make sure when you start seeing little buds coming out, that's why I cut so low to the ground. It lessens the amount of shoots that come up. And if you miss this for a couple of weeks, you'll have shoots right down on the side, and it'll spit the graft. So that's some of the maintenance you have to do in the front.
And how do you determine the size of the scion? Like, why not take a longer scion? Would that give you more flowers?
So I usually start about 4 to 6 inches on the scion. If the scion is too long, that's just so much more that you have to kind of energize, right? So sometimes I've done some longer scions before, and what happens is it doesn't have push enough energy, because what you want it to do is really focus on the graft unit, not anything else, right? So if you have a longer scion, you have a lot more to deal with. Right? Some people try to graft things with fruit or flowers on it. It's a waste. What happens is in some of those cases, that scion starts dying back from the top, and hopefully you get something to catch before it dies back fully.
Oh.
Right, so the longer the scion, the more trouble. There's a thing called bud grafting, right? They'll actually take one single bud from here, probably about that big, and do it. That's how they do citrus. They do actual bud graft. It takes a long time in this apparatus, and I haven't had. If I've done 10 of those, I've gotten 1 to take. But it's something I need to practice, because you can see the difference, right? I just used that one piece, right? There are probably 10 or 12 buds on here. I could have cut 10 or 12 plants out of that one piece versus just doing that. But it's a skill. have a
So
have a
this is
practice
more
enough.
secure. This way you know it's going to survive. You have a pretty good certainty.
You have a, for me, with this is a better chance. And again, this goes back to what's the best type of grafting technique. It's what you're comfortable with, right?
And these could be different varieties. As long as it's an avocado, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we
Is that
got,
right?
we got an avocado out here with 4 varieties on it until the deer ate it. Yeah, the deer ate it.
And where,
Take all the leaves down. You wrap the entire thing, top to bottom.
Do you want buds on it? Do you want the buds on it?
Yeah, you want small buds kind of poking out the side, because that's going to be your branching.
so when you said wrapping it, I didn't understand that. Maybe I missed something earlier.
So, well, I did it before because I didn't want it to dry
Okay.
out. So when I cut the piece of sign off from the tree, what I did immediately, it was covered with tape. See, it's all covered in tape from top to bottom. The only piece of tape I just added was right around the graft.
Okay.
The entire thing was already wrapped.
Ah, okay.
So that would be the equivalent of taking that and putting it in sealing it in a Ziploc bag right when you cut it off the tree. Right, and that's again to preserve the moisture in the scion.
But you could take it from anywhere. I mean, you could go clip here. You wouldn't have to go to the tip.
If you have buds, you can
If you have
knock
buds.
the piece off that also.
But is it better to keep the tip natural? So,
But you're going to end up wanting to do at some point. Like this is growing already into branching. If I go to trade this tree later on, once it gets tall enough, I'm probably going to end up getting rid of this and standing this up. And it doesn't really matter where the bud is. It matters where you want the branching to kind of come from, right? Because if this puts on fruit, even if this tree gets to be this tall, it's still going to have a branch down there by the ground. That avocado is probably going to be